Yo, what's up guys, it's King Sean here, and in today's video, we got a lot of stuff to go over. First off, today was day 13 of Commanders training camp. Was a light day, so we won't spend too much time on what happened today, but we got some news that the Ravens joint practice is canceled next week. We will talk about that in today's video. I'll also talk about the uniform schedule and a couple of the guys we brought in for either a visit or we actually signed them, and we'll talk about Brian Robinson Jr. potentially being a surprise cut. So we'll talk about all of that in today's video. But before we do, make sure y'all leave a like down below. Subscribe if you're not already subbed up to the channel. And turn on notifications. And with that out of the way, let's get straight into today's video. Alright, so today was a light day at Commanders Park for day 13 of training camp. They were in the bubble today. I think the weather isn't the greatest outside. It's a little cloudy where I'm at, so it may not be great over there at Ashburn, but it was a light day. 3 guys did not participate. Well, more guys didn't, but like 3 healthy guys that didn't participate were Von Miller, Zach Ertz, and Laremy Tunsil. But that's because those are vets. They get vet days, and today was a vet day for them, so they didn't practice. One guy that has missed the past few practices that was out there today was Jordan McGee. Now, it's only a jog through. However, you didn't see guys like Brandon Coleman or Javonte Jean-Baptiste, but you did see Jordan McGee out there, so that's good. Means that he's progressing and is getting healthier. Ja'Cory Cross-Camara and Bobby Price, they had on no contact jerseys, so it seems like I don't think they're like seriously injured or something like that. Bobby Price, he's in concussion protocol, and Ja'Cory Cross-Camara, he banged up his shoulder a little bit in the preseason game versus Patriots. I think they're fine, but they are just trying to take it slow with those guys. So we'll see if they will be playing on Monday night versus the Bengals. And that is really about it for day 13 of training camp. Not a whole bunch to talk about from today. All right, now let's go over the uniform schedule. So right here on my screen, you see the Legacy Burgundy uniforms, and we have 4 uniforms: the Legacy Burgundy, the Monument White. This is what they're calling all the uniforms. So the Monument White is the regular away uniforms, the regular white uniforms. Then you have the Super Bowl era white uniforms, which we revealed this offseason, and then the Battle Black uniforms. So for the Legacy Burgundy uniforms, we will be wearing them 5 times this year. Week 2 versus Packers on the road, so that's interesting. Maybe the Packers pull out their all-white unis. We'll see, though. Raiders at home, week 3. Cowboys on the road, week 7. That makes sense because the Cowboys always wear their, I guess, away uniforms at home. I would honestly call those their primary uniforms. The white and silver pants. So that's why we're wearing burgundy on the road against them. And then the Lions week 10 at home, and the Eagles week 16 at home. So only wearing the burgundy uniforms 5 times this year, which is interesting to me. But, I feel like that's because we're wearing the Battle Blacks at home once, and then the Super Bowl era joints at home 3 times. So that's kind of why we're only wearing the burgundy joints at home only 5 times. For the Monument White, they will be wearing it 8 times this year. First time will be week 1 versus the Giants, which is very interesting. Now, usually teams do that, home teams do that. They like to wear white because usually in the early September, the season starts September 4th, first Sunday of the NFL, September 7th. So it won't be like super hot, but it will be a little hot. So they don't want to wear dark colors, which I guess is the case with us. So we're going to be wearing white to force our opponent to wear darker colors to, make them sweat more, make them get more exhausted. That's what the Bucks did with us last year. They actually made us wear burgundy because they wore white at home because it's hot down there in Florida. And then for the other games, week 4 versus the Falcons, week 6 versus the Dolphins. Week 6 versus week 5 versus the Chargers, week 8 versus the Chiefs, week 11 versus the Dolphins, that's what I meant. Week 14 versus the Vikings, week 15 versus the Giants, and then week 18 versus the Eagles. So I'm not a big fan of the white uniforms. However, most of these games are road games, so we're forced to wear white on the road typically. So that's why you see all of these games we're wearing white uniforms in. And then for the Super Bowl era joints, we know that we're going to be wearing them 3 times. First time versus the Seahawks, week 9. Second time versus the Broncos, week 13. And the third time on Christmas against Cowboys, week 17. And then for the black uniforms, we will be wearing it versus the Bears, Monday Night Football in week 6. That's not a surprise. I guessed that. A lot of people guessed that because We wore black versus them last year and the year before when we got absolutely blown out by them, but it just makes sense to use our only game for the black uniforms versus the Bears on Monday Night Football. So super excited to watch that game. And I love the black uniforms, not gonna lie. I wish we would have wore them more than once, but it's what it is because I get the trying to push out the Super Bowl era jersey. So that is our full jersey schedule. Now let's talk about some roster moves the Commanders announced earlier this morning. We signed safety Daryl Worley. He was previously with the Titans this past season. He is 30 years old. This past season with the Titans, he played 9 games for them, started 7, had an interception, and actually racked up a lot of tackles. Had 52 tackles, including 17 tackles against us last year in the Week 13 game. Yes, he had 17 tackles against us in that Week 13 game, which is pretty insane. But, this is just depth. Right now, I think Tyler Owens, he's dealing with a little some. So I guess they just brought in depth for that. Our safety room already isn't super deep. So, with Tyler Owens a little bit nicked up, they decided to bring in depth. And they decided to bring in Daryl Worley. He's not going to be a guy to make the roster, but they needed more bodies to finish out the next 2 preseason games. So I guess that's why they brought him in. And then we also signed wide receiver River Craft and released wide receiver Mike Strachan. So Mike Strachan didn't really do much during training camp. He was one of the receivers. Didn't really think he was in much competition to make the practice squad or even the 53-man roster. So we decided to release him and sign River Craft. Now, I know River Craft from last year's preseason game versus the Dolphins when he cooked Benjamin St. Juste. I'm like, bro, BSJ, why are you getting cooked by a guy named River Craft? Well, a year later, we decided to sign him. Over his career, Craft has put up 32 receptions for 374 yards and 3 touchdowns. So, he's just depth. This doesn't really change anything for me with the receiver room. He's not going to make the roster, but we need better depth, and maybe Craft is a better receiver than Strachan. So we decided to release Strachan and sign Craft, and I guess that would give us a better receiver depth right there. And it was also reported that the Commanders hosted veteran offensive tackle George Fant for a visit. Fant has 75 career starts and previously visited the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So he's a guy that has gotten some traction during this training camp from other teams, including the Buccaneers. And we hosted him on a visit this morning. So that's interesting. Lucas Niang, the guy we signed like a week or 2 ago, he tore his ACL in the Patriots game. So he's out for the season. We placed him on IR. So bringing George Fant could be a replacement for Lucas Niang, but I feel like it will be more than that because George Fant is a guy that, at times during his career, he was a solid starter. He just could never really stay fully healthy. He never started fully 16 games, 17 games in a season, so he can never stay fully healthy. However, as a swing tackle, he would be really, really good for us. He's had experience at left tackle and right tackle, and we never really replaced Cornelius Lucas, so getting a swing tackle in George Fant would not be a bad signing to me at all. Then we'd actually have a tackle we could rely on to play at right tackle or left tackle if one of our tackles were to go down with an injury or something. Hopefully that doesn't happen, but in this league you always have to stay prepared for the worst. So bringing in a guy like George Fant to be our swing tackle, definitely wouldn't mind that at all. We're still in contact with him, but have not signed him yet, so we'll see how it goes. But if we do sign him, then I would actually like this signing quite a bit. Now let's talk about the Commanders and Ravens canceling their joint practice next week. It was announced by the Ravens Twitter account and Dan Quinn this morning. DQ said that he spoke to John Harbaugh last night, and the reason why they canceled the practice, and it's unfortunate that they did because I was really looking forward to our starters versus the Ravens. The Ravens are one of the best teams in the NFL, and it really would have been a great matchup, a great test for our starting offense and our starting defense, right? Our team in general to go up against a team like that. Was really excited to see JD versus Lamar Jackson in practice, right? But it was canceled because we play the Bengals on Monday Night Football in a couple of days, and then we'd have to play or practice against the Ravens 3 days later. And that's just not enough rest. And we're going to play our starters on Monday Night Football versus the Bengals. So then we'd have to play them on Monday Night Football. And then after that, 3 days later, we'd have to practice against the Ravens. So that's just a lot. And also, the Ravens have to travel to Dallas for their second preseason game and then travel up to D.C. or Ashburn, Virginia for the practice with us. So it was just a lot. It was just a lot. And unfortunately, with that short amount of time, that 5-day period between our second preseason game and the Ravens preseason game, it just wasn't going to work out. And it's unfortunate because, like I said, I was really excited to see us go up against the Ravens in practice. But it's what it is. The practice, though, has officially been canceled. And then finally, I want to talk about what Ben Standing had to say about Brian Robinson Jr. He gave a hot take about the running back yesterday on his podcast, and he said that he doesn't think B-Rob will be on the week 1 roster come week 1. Now, to me, I don't think that's going to happen. Like, B-Rob, he's obviously going to be on the roster. If he wasn't going to be on the roster, then he would have played versus the Patriots. Like, remember Jahan Dotson last year? And I know we played our starters in the first 2 preseason games, but I mean, Jahan Dotson, he played extensively versus the Jets and the Dolphins, and he didn't do much in either game, and we decided to trade him, and he just wasn't looking good in training camp whatsoever. He wasn't fitting Cliff Kingsbury's offense, so, we moved on from him. Well, B-Rob, I actually think they actually want to keep him. I don't think they're going to move on from him. Like, as good as Jacory Cross-Camara has been, and that's the reason why Ben Standing, think B-Rob gone is because Jacory Cross-Camara, I mean, he's just been so good this offseason, this training camp. He was really good versus the Patriots in the preseason game. So it's like, with that guy on the roster, what's the point of B-Rob, right? And I do think at some point, Cross-Camara, Bill, will take over as the lead back some point this season. It won't be week 1. It won't be week 2. It won't be week 3. It'll probably be mid-season, maybe week 5, week 6, 7, 8. But B-Rob will be our starting running back week 1, and there's just no way we will trade him, cut him. He will be on the starting roster come week 1. So that is it for today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Comment down below your thoughts on everything I talked about in today's video. And other than that, it's been King Sean, and I'm out. Peace.